Dragon Quest II is the black sheep of its series. It's commonly ranked as the worst Dragon Quest game, both on fan lists and in major publications. Now, I'm not trying to imply that the fanbase hates this game or anything, even though I have heard that a few times. Every ranking list has to put some game at the bottom, and it doesn't always mean that the game is bad, just not as good as all the others on the list. And that's the case here. Dragon Quest is a series where every game is considered pretty damn good, so it's worth looking into why Dragon Quest II is often listed as the worst one so we can determine if it deserves that spot. Before that though, I will admit I haven't played every Dragon Quest game yet. The ones I haven't played might be terrible for all I know, but as I understand they all iterate on the standard formula, with a few exceptions, and are all consistently recommended by fans. That's enough reason for me to assume they're all at least good. With that out of the way, let's look at why Dragon Quest II gets so much flack. The most common reason is that the game is very difficult, to the point of feeling unfair, even for its era. And I do mean very difficult. There's Nintendo Hard, and then there's Dragon Quest II. A ton of grinding is required due to how slowly characters gain stats, especially near the end of the game. I'm talking hours of grinding. And one party member, the Prince of Canuck, is infamous for being almost useless in combat by the endgame. He's gonna die a lot, and the only places to save are found in towns, making every trek out into the world quite perilous, even for routine grinding. I can understand anyone not liking the game for these reasons, and knowing what I know about the other games in the series, I'd say it deserves the last spot on most rankings. So why isn't this video over, you might ask? The answer to the question in the title is yes. Well, this last article mentions that the mobile version, which is also the version that's on Switch and PS4, is the best way to play Dragon Quest II, and I could not agree more. Playing the mobile version resolves a lot of the problems with the game's unfair difficulty that I mentioned. The Prince of Canuck is still pretty bad, but thankfully not entirely useless. You can save wherever you want, making grinding a minor time sink rather than a rage-inducing affair if your party gets wiped, and level progression is faster and more fair to help with this. Lastly, party members will auto-target a different enemy when their original target is dead instead of their attacks just missing, which always felt unfair in the NES version. All in all, whether it be the mobile or console release, the modern edition of Dragon Quest II reveals the gem beneath layers of NES grime. I want to look at one more complaint though. Here's another article, this one from The Gamer, which claims Dragon Quest II is lackluster compared to other RPGs from the same era. I've seen this criticism a lot and want to examine it. Let's see what other JRPGs were around when Dragon Quest II was released. DQ2 came out in January 1987 in Japan. Using the Western release date of 1990 isn't fair, so we'll stick to 87. Also, while I understand someone wanting to compare it to all RPGs from the time, I'll stick to comparing with contemporary JRPGs in this video, since JRPGs provide a different experience, and someone who's after that JRPG feel isn't going to look to Western RPGs. And finally, I'm sticking to games released in the West, since that's the context most readers of this article and viewers of this video would have. By those criteria, there aren't any. It's an empty list. There were a few JRPGs from 1986, but aside from the original Dragon Quest, none of them got a Western release. Final Fantasy didn't start until late 1987, so that's out of consideration as well. The only notable game from before Dragon Quest II that eventually saw a Western release was Hydlide, which is well known for being a not-so-fun dinosaur of a JRPG. Okay, but that article did say era. The problem is it's unclear what that means. Dragon Quest II didn't get a Western release until 1990 under the name Dragon Warrior 2, of course, so if we're comparing it to JRPGs from the entire NES era, it might look a lot more primitive. But again, that's not a fair comparison. Games took a lot less time to develop back then, so even 9 months would be plenty for a dev team to iterate on ideas introduced in a recent game, like how the first Final Fantasy innovated on Dragon Quest II. I suppose if someone is looking to play just one NES JRPG, Dragon Quest II isn't the best choice, but that's a contrived scenario and there's plenty to appreciate in DQ2 regardless. So, the claim in this article is flat out wrong at worst and misleading at best. But the point of all this isn't to pick on another person writing about games, it's to help show what a trailblazer Dragon Quest II was. It introduced a wide open world where you can go wherever you want, a boat to help get you there, and an early party system that would help set the standard for JRPGs going forward. There's even a twist of sorts in how the world is designed, where the world from the first game is available, albeit in a shrunken down form, showing that the game is connected to the first one. That was innovative in 1987. I can imagine my mind being blown by all the new features had I played this in 1987, and even now, it's not difficult to get into the mindset of a new player and appreciate the addition of a boat and sea travel, warp points, and the general grander sense of adventure compared to the first Dragon Quest. Contributing to this is the aforementioned addition of party members. Besides your hero, Princess Eileen of Moonbrook and the Prince of Canik join in on the fun, although we still get very little characterization for them or any other character in the game. This time, you're a descendant of the legendary Erdrick, the long-gone hero mentioned in the first game, your father is the king, and you're sent to save the world. That's about it, and for 1987, it's enough. Even today, it's enough for a player like me. Story is nice in JRPGs, but it's not why I play them. Dragon Quest II evolves the JRPG formula enough that it deserves to be remembered just as much, if not more, than the original. In fact, if for some reason you were only going to play one of the first two games, I'd recommend this one, because it's similar enough to the first game to still give you the ultimate old school JRPG feel, while having a lot more meat on its bones. There are more monsters to fight, more caves and dungeons to explore, a lot more secrets, and a greater variety of spells and effects. But like the first game, it still feels like a prototype of what the JRPG genre would become, and that's its charm. In comparison, Dragon Quest III feels much more like a modern JRPG. You can tell the developers at Chunsoft were still figuring out what worked best for the genre in this one, but the game isn't less fun because of that. Instead, it's charming seeing an early JRPG do so much right, despite a few flaws. If you love JRPGs, and especially if you're a Dragon Quest fan, don't skip this game. Just play the remake. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more reviews and thoughts on JRPGs.